Alejandro, we there? We started? Is this it? This is what we're doing from the fourth floor? What happened to the countdown, Alejandro? Where are we doing here? Look at this. The Heat have given up on the season, so have we. No, I don't want to say that out loud. Okay, I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick. And at 5 Reasons Sports, we got Greg Sylvander. You can follow him at Greg Sylvander. We got Gadiel Cartagena. You can follow him at Gad Cartagena or some version of that. It's different on Instagram. But anyway, just the three of us today. This is Before Floor, an extension of 5 on the floor on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe buttons to keep us in business. Also, we'll have a post-game podcast, or actually a post-game stream that will become a podcast after the game tonight. The Heat are playing the Rockets tonight. I know this surprises people, but they're actually playing a game. And they've actually won 7 straight home games. Greg, when you tweeted that today, I was like, what? Or somebody tweeted that. I didn't actually realize that because it doesn't feel like it. Because right now, the Heat have a net rating of 0.0. They just came out of the trade deadline, and all they did was trade Dwayne Dedmon and attach a second-round pick. Heat fans are furious. They're rioting in the streets today. That's why I actually took a boat out and I got all red because I didn't want to be anywhere near the streets because there are Heat fans with pitchforks everywhere. This is one of those games that they absolutely should win, must win. I guess here's the first question before we get to all the trade stuff. Who's available tonight? We know Kyle Lowry's not, right? Like, who's available?
It appears as if everybody else that we would expect to be available who was available against Indiana would now also be there as well. I didn't hear of anybody popping up that was abnormal, so I would expect that you'd see the regular starters and yeah, so it's essentially you have basically everybody that they have enough for sure.
Well, we have a T-shirt that says we have enough. Gad, when we talk about the regular starters, these are the regular starters you wanted to see. By the way, Brady Hawk is at the game tonight. He just tweeted. He's in the locker room tonight. He tweeted, Max Drew said, I'm still here. And to that point, these guys are still here. So whether maybe some of the guys in the top end of the pecking order wanted trades or not, or whether some of the others were concerned that they might be traded, they weren't. And we did see at the trade deadline the past couple of years that there was like a relief for certain guys, and they started to play better. One of those was Duncan Robinson last year, actually. And obviously that didn't translate to this season. But I guess let's start here. First, do you think that there could be a little bit of a relief thing here where maybe the team plays a little bit better because now they know kind of what they have with the exception of a potential buyout guy? And also, this starting lineup, you think this is the starting lineup for the rest of the season now? Because they didn't get a 4, and they're starting a $28 million starting point guard is on an indefinite hiatus.
I think first and foremost, yeah, I actually think the Heat are kind of not going to go on a little bit of a run, but I think they're going to work their way up the standings a little bit to the point where we're kind of talking like, okay, they're going to be in that mix for like the 4th or 5th seed. Maybe they get home court against Cleveland or whatever. Maybe they can even reach 3rd if whatever team is in 3rd falls off. I think that's Philly. Yeah. But I wouldn't anticipate that. So I think they will win more games. Now, ultimately, I don't think the ceiling of this team changes at all, but that's besides the point. I think they're going to feel that relief a little bit and start playing a little bit better basketball because they know this is the group. You can't change that right now. The only thing you can do is add some name off the buyout market because I don't think you're getting a productive player, but you get like a name that can maybe be productive. And that's really it. So that's where I'm at on that. And sorry, what was the second question? I don't
even remember. Oh, the starting lineup. The starting lineup. Yes.
The starting lineup. Okay, so I think I think the only thing that I would be a little bit intrigued about is the first preseason game, Yurt started. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not saying he's going to start, but maybe they try flirting with that at a certain point. I don't know if that would be something that they would try in the starting lineup, something they would try during the game. But that's the only thing that I think might change. But I think Gabe Vincent as a starting point guard, you kind of want to know what you have in him. And if Depot's not going to be available game in and game out, then you go with the guy who's probably going to be a little bit more consistent in that role. And he fits with the starters. Now, will he do a great job with them? Who knows? The TBD. But I think Gabe should be the starting point guard from here on out, with or without Lowry being active.
I'm with you on that, and that plays into the buyout situation here too. I'm with Gad for all those reasons. I think people who follow 5 on the floor know I agree with him. I think he's a better player right now than Kyle. Just simply, he just allows them to do more things because he can actually guard the point of attack. That's where it starts and ends for me. Like that's the offensive stuff. Whatever, Kyle's struggles there, but Kyle can't guard anybody at the point of attack anymore. So to me, that negates his value in the starting lineup with that group because it forces Caleb to do things he shouldn't have to do. It gets everybody all out of whack. but also the evaluate Gabe for a future contract, I think, is important. I think that matters a lot more than showcasing a Duncan Robinson or something like that. I think they have to showcase Gabe to themselves. Can he handle this role, and how much money does he deserve? I guess, Greg, we're going to have to touch on the buyout stuff here because I know that's the only reason people are tuning in tonight. So the Russell Westbrook stuff is out there. And I hated the idea at first because I'm like, okay, he's everything they don't need. Like, they desperately need shooting. They desperately need size. I mean, he's a good rebounder for a guard. He always will be, obviously. Triple doubles and everything. But, like, him and Jimmy and Bam on the court together just strikes me as a tire fire offensively. Just a total disaster. I mean, you can't possibly put enough shooting around. We were worried about Oladipo shooting with them. I mean, this would be worse. And Russ is not the defender that Vic is. Has never been the defender that Vic is, right? But then I'm also thinking about it, and I'm looking at the rest of this list, and I'm like, okay, there's no viable big on there. Like, this list of potential buyout guys, like, I mean, Serge Ibaka, like, what are we talking about? Like, there's nothing out there right now. And so if that's the case, like, okay, for entertainment purposes, I want it because it'll make people actually watch us for a couple of weeks, and that it'll be interesting. But beyond that, like Gad said, like, there's the possibility of productivity with somebody like that. Like, I mean, he was productive with the Lakers. He accepted his role. And I'm just like, if you can get anybody to juice anything, like who can actually get to the basket or something along those lines, like, it's better than what they've been getting from frankly, it's better than what they've been getting from Kyle Lowry. So
that's scary. It's scary that we've arrived here. It's mortifying, but like, they are last in the league, I think, in bench scoring too. So if like you ever were going to have a guy to come in and just do those things off the bench and be a player that maybe like his individual approach to offense will help this group just get some buckets, because they don't get easy buckets. They don't get to the rim often. And I know that his rim numbers are not great either. So it's not like he gets to the bucket and converts great. But this is the other part of it, is that we know he has all world talent to some degree, and athleticism is still there, although waning. Like, he still is able to impact the game that way and get to the bucket and stuff like that. And he does rebound above his position. So I don't know. I guess you could talk me into it, but it just feels like that's not going to be the difference between them doing anything differently, or it doesn't raise their ceiling in a 7-game series against anybody. So essentially it's just fortifying the end of the bench and maybe taking a shot on a guy. Will Barton is kind of, I think, just cut from that cloth as well, as a player that could, help them offensively, but these are all stopgaps.
Well, the cynical side of me, Gad, says the fan base is angry. Not just angry, but becoming apathetic, right? Like, they're just not interested in this team the way that they were a year ago, right? The cynical side of me says that it's a box office move, right? Like, you bring in a guy with a name who's a future Hall of Famer, there's no question about that, who they probably should have taken instead of Michael Beasley way back in 2008. And he's interesting, right? The media would actually the national media would actually follow the Heat for a couple of days to see how Russ is working out down there. The cynical side of me says you make that move instead of, say, getting a Reggie Jackson or a Will Barton, who might actually have more impact, Will in particular, for what they need, at least in the backcourt. Am I wrong to think that?
I mean, if someone said they would prefer Reggie Jackson or Will Barton, I wouldn't fight them on it. I'm in on the Russ idea. Like, for the amount of assets that you're putting into it, which is next to nothing,
right?
There is at least some upside to maybe not impact the playoff series like Greg said, but he can maybe win you like 2 or 3 games just by virtue of having like one of those big games off the bench that they typically don't have. And when you're looking at the standings, those 2 or 3 games could bump you from like the 4 seed to the 3 seed, and that could change the outlook a little bit. Now, is that going to mean you can beat Boston or Milwaukee? No, but I think honestly he fits with the bench talent that we have. It's just he would have to buy into such a minute role compared to what he's been able to do almost anywhere else that that thing to me is a little iffy, because the last thing that this team needs is a little bit more like locker room issues. But I like him in like a 15 to 18 minute role when Jimmy's off the floor.
Great. And Simon Smith is tweeting that Woj was just on NBA Countdown stating that the Heat are keen on Russell Westbrook. So here we go.
Yeah, but again, am I being cynical about why they're keen? I don't know. Here's the other thing. We talk about he fits with the bench unit. I understand they need scoring. But I'm like, okay, and he played with Oladipo. But it seems to me like a terrible fit. Like I would have to look back, right? I would have to look back and see how it worked at Oklahoma City. But I'm like, okay, what kind of shooting are you getting out there with them? Like, I mean, there would be rim attacks, but like you're kicking out to what? Like if you play the two of them together, you're gonna have a lot of kickouts to wide open brick threes, aren't you? Like, isn't that what that's leading? That's what
more or less what they're doing right now.
No, I look, their bench is bottom feeding. There's no question. Like they need something. I mean, all we've talked about this whole year is get Lowry out of the starting lineup and Dedmon out of the rotation, and it's literally the addition by subtraction. Like this whole season has been about addition by subtraction. Get these guys out of those lineups, and then there's no one. And then you're like, okay, Orlando Robinson can literally walk and chew gum at the same time, and we're hailing him as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, right? Because he's not killing you, because he's essentially a flat line, and you're like, good, like, thank you. Like, literally, when I asked Jimmy, and this told you everything you need to know about where Dedmon stood with him, and I think they liked Dedmon personally, but, like, I asked Jimmy after a game that Orlando Robinson played, what do you like about him? He says he does what he's told. Like literally, that's what, because you didn't have Dedmon like hijacking the offense with like taking a three with 19 seconds left of the shot clock. Like you're like, okay, like that's really where we're at. So I understand what you're saying, like with Westbrook, and it's like, okay, how much worse could it get, right? Like it can't. I mean, this is a future Hall of Famer guy, but it could get worse. I mean, it could. I mean, he could hijack possessions, and he could be shooting 28% from three and all that. Laker fans seem to think he was playing pretty well this year and that LeBron basically sabotaged him. So I've been following that the past 24 hours. Anyway, you have another thought?
I will say, if in the event that they do look at Russell Westbrook, that, in my opinion, would change it. That if Vic is healthy, you probably start Vic, because that's the playoff starting lineup that I want to see anyways. Then you have Gabe kind of playing that combo guard role off the bench. So I'm thinking like off the bench, you would have Russ, Gabe, Duncan, Haywood, Yurt. That honestly kind of fits, in my opinion.
It's interesting.
It would have to be one hell of a stagger job by Spo. But if there is anyone I'm trusting with that job, it is Eric Spoelstra.
Well, he might hold that to the first round of the playoffs and then stick Vic in the starting lineup, right? I mean, you can make a case that Vic playing with Tyler in the starting lineup makes sense. There's a natural chemistry between the two of them personally that does not exist between Lowry and Hero. And they seem to want each other to succeed, whereas I got the sense that Kyle basically wanted Tyler to trip over himself and be out for 10 to 12 weeks. Like, it never looked, I'm not saying that seriously. Don't clip that. I'm just saying it never looked comfortable for the two of them for whatever reason. With Vic and Tyler, it does. All right, let's pivot back here to this game, but that is probably more interesting than anything that's going to happen tonight. They're going to have to rebound the ball tonight, or Houston does a decent job of that. They got young legs. They don't defend at all. So, that hopefully they'll be in a good position there. I do want to mention a couple of our sponsors here. I've waited too long to do this. MarkBrownPA.com. Go there if you need an estate plan. Check that out. Maybe you could leave your Heat tickets to somebody in your will. If you're a newlywed, or again, you've just had a child, you need an estate plan. So reach out to Mark. Go to MarkBrownPA.com. Look at him with the pointers. He was asking me about what the Heat were going to do yesterday, and he sent me a big unhappy face, basically right before 3:00. So he's a big Heat fan. But again, what he can handle for you is your real estate closing. He's got a real estate. He can do all that in-house. He's got a title company in-house, but also he can help you with an estate plan. You need an estate plan. Like I know some of you are thinking, I don't need that. If you're 33 years old, you got a young child, get an estate plan. You never know what's going to happen to you. Life changes in an instant. Also, PrizePicks. Use the code 5FIVE. Get that initial deposit matched up to $100. Super Bowl, PrizePicks this weekend. Make the game more interesting. I think it's going to be a good game anyway. But if you don't have a rooting interest, go to PrizePicks. Use the code 5FIVE. We're going to have lots of contests going up until Sunday. We're giving away some free PrizePicks, but you got to be signed up with our code. We can check, okay? So make sure you're signed up with our code when you deposit, and you'll have a chance to win additional free money in addition to the match. Greg, you got a couple PrizePicks before we close?
Yes. So Caleb Martin's been playing really good lately.
Yeah.
He is averaging 8 rebounds in his last 5. He has gone over 5.5 rebounds in 4 of his last 5. Take him over 5.5 rebounds on Prize Picks. That's like a free square to me. The Mahomes square is also out there. And then the other one that I like a lot is Bam Adebayo. He is at 11.5 points in the first half. He's been getting off to good starts. I expect him to play well, so I would go over 11.5 points in the first half for Bam Adebayo as well. But again, there's a lot of great flex plays, and obviously that free Patrick Mahomes Super Bowl square is reason to get started now with the code 5.
Yeah, you can do that up to $25 on the Mahomes square. So make sure if you want to play it, play the whole thing. Give yourself a chance there. All right, so tonight, Gad, they've lost some of these games. They lost to Detroit at home. They lost to San Antonio at home, right? They lost in Charlotte. They pretty much made the rounds. Like, they've screwed up everybody's Wemby chase by losing to these teams, but they are playing better at home lately. I expect a fairly comfortable win tonight. Do you?
Yeah, like if you've watched the Houston Rockets play basketball, unless the ball is in Alperen Sengun's hands, they play probably the worst brand of basketball in the whole league. The Heat should win this game convincingly, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I'm with you, Greg, on Bam 11.5 because I don't know that he's going to play the fourth. So to me, if you're going to play Bam tonight on Prize Picks, play him for the first half. You can do that on Prize Picks. Comfortable win tonight, Greg?
I think so. And on a day that NBA.com released their MVP rankings and Bam Adebayo has squeezed, he's 15th in their MVP rankings all of a sudden. I am saying a huge Bam game leads them to victory. And yes, they will take care of Houston and continue the home winning streak. It
is amazing how we just count on it now with him. And he's had one off game in a month, and it was the Charlotte game, and they literally lost because of it. That's how important he is lately. He has to be on his game, but most of the time he is. All right, thanks to Gad. Thanks to Greg. There will be a post-game show tonight. Also, another note, our friend Jonathan Ramlakan, who's actually covering UFC tonight, which is why he's not here, is covering Heat Magic this weekend in Orlando. So he's actually going to be at that one this weekend. So he's going to be handling that. I think that's news to both of you guys, but we got him in to the next 2 Magic games. So he'll be there getting stuff for us. Brady and Alex are at this game tonight. They were not traded at the deadline. I was offered several first-round picks, but not enough. I said I want the Rudy Gobert price for both of them, and I didn't get it. All right, thanks, Alejandro, for producing. Everybody have a good night.